We'll go ahead and bring the May 4th, 2023 Board of Adjustment meeting to order. Recording Secretary, would you please do roll call?
Clay Thomas.
Here.
Rob Pierce.
Here.
Don Christensen.
Here.
Brad Stanley.
Here.
Kathy Julian.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. If we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ethics law announcement, Mr. Large.
Board members are reminded that with respect to any matter or any person coming before the board today, you've received a gift or a loan, you have a pecuniary interest, you have a commitment in a private capacity, such as a family, employment, business, or similar relationship, or you provided representation or counseling before an agency or to a person or entity for compensation within the last year on a matter being considered. You must disclose that gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation at the time the matter is being considered. And you must furthermore abstain from deliberation or voting on the matter if it is clear that the gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation would materially affect the independence of judgment of a reasonable person. Board members are also reminded that under the Board of Adjustment rules, if you had any contact outside this meeting with any person interested in a matter coming before the board today, you should disclose the nature of that contact at this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Large. Mr. Lloyd, appeal procedure, please.
Most decisions rendered by the Board of Adjustment are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you disagree with the decision of the Board of Adjustment and you qualify as an aggrieved person or party, you may appeal in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is reduced to writing, filed with the Secretary of the Board of Adjustment, and mailed to the original applicant in the proceeding being appealed in accordance with Washoe County Code. Please call the planning staff immediately at 328-6100 for information on the appeal procedure and the application fee.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. Next on the agenda is public comment. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the agenda. However, action may not be taken on any matter raised during the public comment period until the matter is specifically listed on the agenda as an action item. Comments are to be made to the Board of Adjustment as a whole. Recording Secretary, do we have anyone wishing to speak at this time?
I have no public comment in chambers and no hands raised via Zoom.
Thank you very much. Next, approval of the May 4th, 2023 agenda. Is there any discussion on the agenda from board members? None. I'll entertain a motion.
I so move.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. Second.
This is Rob. I'll second it.
Mr. Pierce, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is approval of the April 6th, 2023 draft minutes. Is there any discussion from the board on this item? See none. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. First item on the agenda is amendment to conditions, case number WAC 23-0002. It's the Black Rock 360. I believe we have planner Olander who will be up for this.
Good afternoon, Julie Olander for the record. So this is an amendment of conditions for a special use permit, for special use permit 21-00112. And the request is to approve a site plan, a new site plan, updated site plan, and to extend the expiration 3 years. And that's primarily the 3-year extension is to meet the health district requirements and then NDEP requirements concerning water and wastewater management. This site is located out by Gerlach. It's a 360-acre site. And this board approved this item on February 4th, 2021, and that item was to approve for the use of inoperable and operable vehicle storage, light and wholesale storage and distribution use type on 30 acres of the site. And then also to allow major grading of 18 acres to be disturbed, 9,000 cubic yards of cut, and 20,000 cubic yards of fill. And then they also requested some variations to landscaping, screening, paved parking, and then the container adjacency standards. This also included an approval of a 5-year annual expansion over the 30 acres over the next 4 years. So that was that special use permit. And so the approved plan is on the left. That is what they originally submitted in 2021. And then the amended plan is to the right. And as you can see, it's a lot more detailed. So there's a few conditions that we're proposing to change. The one is 1C, where it said within 2 years, we're proposing to change that to May 4th, 2026. That's that additional 3 years that they're asking for to meet the requirements of the health district and also for grading too. And then they're also, it's also going to impact conditions 3A and B. 3A has to do with connecting to the water system, and 3B has to do with the commercial septic system. This will also impact condition 2A, which basically talks about the drawings and the grading that plan that's submitted at time of building permit. As I said, the 3 years will not, they're asking for, and the site change will not overall change the rest of the special use permit that was approved. And just to sort of reiterate what it was, the 3 years will give them the water system or wastewater system requirements to be met by health department. And then they're also, for the grading, they're also looking at stockpiling material, and that material will be removed removed from the west side of the property to be reused later. I could go back to the map and sort of show you where that is, and if that's a question, I can do that later. And then also, the original plan said that 18 acres are going to be disturbed in that original SUP. However, after this new site plan and refiguring things on the property, they're only proposing to disturb 16 acres. Property owners within 3,600 feet were noticed. We have to have at least 30 property owners that are noticed, and so I had to go out 3,600 feet. 36 parcels were noticed. The application was sent to different agencies, and several of the departments did provide new comments that are in your staff report. Staff is able to make the findings, and I offer a possible motion. The applicant is here and available to answer any questions. They don't have a presentation, but they are available for any questions you might have, and I'm also available for any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions for staff on this item? Mr. Stanley.
Planner Olander, a 3-year extension, is that traditional? Is that an average extension length, or is that, and what, does it seem reasonable to you that that would be the time required to address the shortfall of finishing the earlier tasks?
Julie Olander for the record. It's up to the applicant. In this situation, they've done some more investigation on the property, and through that process, realized the things that they need to accomplish there. They're anticipating the 3 years should be sufficient to do that.
Hold off.
Oh,
1 second, please.
Just wait, maybe they won't.
We will get to you
They
in
need you.
just 1 second. Is there any further questions for staff?
Okay.
Mr. Christensen.
Thank you. For the record, Don Christensen. You know, I pored over this thing the last few days, and I noticed that there were no responses to our mailers that went out to the neighboring properties, which has become kind of typical of these things. My problem here is what happens when the novelty or cachet or whatever of Burning Man becomes a thing of the past, and we have this infrastructure. They own, what, 360 acres out there. That's bigger than the town of Gerlach by far. And we've granted another 2 years. To me, it looks like we're hedging our bets. They are, the applicant. Have you given any thought of if this thing's just folded up and we have all this infrastructure out there and those, ultimately, within 5 years, 30 acres, what's to become of it? The good people of Gerlach are going to have to reclaim this. And I say that with full knowledge that they have done, BlackRock 360 has done an exemplary job in the cleanup every year. I don't know, what's the deal with the 3 years? I just don't quite understand why it takes, and talk about grading on something that's essentially flat anyway. That kind of bothers me. So,
Well, it's not only the.
if we can enlarge on that a little bit, please.
Julie Olander for the record, excuse me for interrupting. So this is, the Health District has looked at these plans, also NDEP has, and they have certain criteria that the applicant needs to meet. And so it's going to be not, it can't be done in a year or by the time frame that they, it's 2 years, so they just can't make that deadline because of the requirements that are required. Now, the applicant might be able to answer that more fully, but that's the basics of it, is that some of these other departments have stricter criteria, or their criteria is going to take longer because of various, needs and requirements on their part. So the applicant is asking for that 3 years. I don't find that exceptional. I would think 6 years might be exceptional, or maybe 5 or 6 years, but 3 to 4 years is not, I don't think, out of the ordinary. But if the applicant wants to respond, they might have a better response to it. If you want to hear from them.
Thank you. Any more questions for staff? Seeing none, thank you very much. Is the applicant present and wish to comment on this item?
Good afternoon. For the record, Mike Rayleigh with Christie Corporation, here representing Burning Man Project. To address the concern, really, the reason for this extension is to essentially address conditions that were placed on the map, and most kind of the big ones are water and wastewater. That requires review through not only the health department, but through the state, through NDEP. And just to give you an example, we've been working on that process for well over a year, and we still have a long way to go with NDEP. It's in an area that's very remote, there's no infrastructure there. So essentially we're starting from scratch to create those systems. And so the 3 years gives us enough time where we have a comfort level that we can get through that state review process and then get the construction done. And that's why we're asking for the 3 years. To address Commissioner Christensen's concern, the long-range plan for this property is much more than just support for the Burning Man event. Burning Man is one of the largest owners of property in Gerlach, in the town itself. They have long-term plans for the Fly Ranch, for example, that's just to the north. They don't see, even if the event were to stop, their presence would not go away in the town. There's other uses that are being contemplated for that property that will come back before the board in the future with future phases. But this is the initial phase to at least get the infrastructure put in.
Thank you. Are there any more questions for the applicant? Mr. Stanley?
One more. Thank you. Brad Stanley for the record. Mike, how was gray water and so forth handled before? What changed other than it sounded like state oversight is now maybe more?
So part of the conditions that were on the original permit is that we had to establish a commercial structure. So that needs a well and septic. There's no well and septic on the property now. And so that's what's triggering this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you very much. We'll now move to recording secretary. Is anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item?
I have no hands raised in chambers and no hands raised via Zoom.
Thank you very much. We'll close public comment, bring it back to the board for discussion. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, I will, Mr. Christensen, did you have something?
Just to reiterate what I just said earlier, it is a little bit inconceivable to me that an entity such as BlackRock 360, I understand they're a legitimate corporation, that has such infrastructure, despite what the long-term plans might be, in support of something that they will never own. In other words, the actual site on the playa which brings, what, 75,000 people a year or more. And this 30 acres, ultimately, lovely infrastructure, but I just can't see anybody doing that in support of something that they'll never own. And that's all this is a support for the Burning Man Festival. Is it a benefit to the rest of the community? I suppose that's up to the good folks of Gerlach, and we don't hear them addressing us. So that's why I hesitated. Is I would love to hear from them something. I'm just suspicious, and I will admit that. But I don't quite understand it. But this board has reminded me before, you guys aren't here to make me understand things. I appreciate that, but I don't support this, maybe for a couple of years. But for 3 more years, no, on top of 2 that have already gone on, no. Something is just not right. I'm looking at it from my economics hat, and I'm not trying to persuade anybody, but I think I'm going to be the lone voice that says, no, I don't like this. So having said that, thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Mr. Stanley?
Mr. Chair, may I, within the rules, ask the applicant another question?
Sure. Can we have the applicant or the representative for the applicant please come back to this podium?
Mr. Raley, is there any bonding that would help address Member Christensen's concerns?
I believe, and I'm going to defer this to Mr. Lloyd, I believe that bonding is required in the conditions as they're written now.
Yes, there was a condition with the original special use permit that required bonding for the grading, for restoration of the site and possible re-veg, but that was the extent of the bonding.
Okay, is that the traditional $2,000 an acre or
That's
whatever
correct.
that magic number is?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. And how many acres again?
16.
16.
16 acres.
So $32,000 of bond or whatever.
Right.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion amongst board members? Seeing none, thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion.
This is Rob for the record. I move that after given reasoned consideration and information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Board of Adjustments approve amendment of condition case number WAC 23-0002 for Burning Man project with the conditions included in Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with Washoe County Code Section 110.810.30, consistency improvements, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and no effects on a military installation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Julian. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is administrative permit case number WADMIN 23-0004 Eagle Place DAS. And we have Mr. Pelham, Senior Planner, that will be addressing this.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, Roger Pelham with Washoe County Planning. We're here to consider administrative permit case number WADMIN 23-0004 Eagle Place Detached Accessory Structure. And this is a request to allow a 4,000 square foot workshop, barn, detached accessory structure on the same parcel of land with a 3,000 square foot dwelling. This is located out in Warm Springs in the Warm Springs Specific Plan area on the south side of Eagle Place as shown on the vicinity map. This is the site plan. You can see the dwelling there further up, that is to say north on the plan, and then the proposed structure there to the lower left. This is an overhead photograph showing that area. There's a number of things there that were there when this photo was taken that have since been removed, but of course that area will be cleared before the structure is built. And this is an elevation. This is a very simple metal structure, similar to many other similar structures that are really rather common in that area. And that really is sort of the core of the analysis. This is a permissible use in the high-density rural zone. The parcel itself is essentially flat. Large barns, workshops, that type of thing are rather common in the area. This is proposed to meet all of the required setbacks and of course will be required to meet building code when the building permit is submitted. Really, there are minimal conditions of approval really are warranted by this request. We do have some conditions to make sure it's the same color, that it blends in a little bit, but essentially this is, again, a pretty common thing. There are no particular policies in the Warm Springs area plan or the specific plan that would apply to this. I have evaluated each of the required findings of fact. I believe that each of those can be made in the positive. It is consistent. I've kind of talked about that. Improvements are not really needed. This doesn't generate any more traffic. There's no water or electricity proposed to this. It's basically just a metal box. The site is suitable. Essentially, it's flat. Again, being common in that area, the issuance is not detrimental, and there is no military installation within 3,000 feet of the parcel of land. So with that, I am recommending approval, and we have a possible motion that is on the overhead and contained within your staff reports. And with that, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for staff from the board?
What is the, Kathy Jillian for the record, what is the size, the height of the existing building?
Not the existing dwelling. I've been out there, but I want to say that it's actually a two-story building, it's two-story dwelling, but I'd prefer to defer that to the applicant.
Thank you. Any further questions for staff? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Pelham.
Thank you.
Is the applicant present, wish to address this matter? I believe we have a question for the applicant.
Hi, how are you? My name's Nevada Story. I've lived down in Palomino Valley almost 30 years. I'm a general contractor in Washoe County. Yeah, well, it's state of Nevada, general contractor. Let's see, I've always wanted a shop that I could work on tractors and stuff. We were out there and there was nobody out there 30 years ago, and now we're getting lots of people. A lot of these steel buildings that I'm doing out there, I'm not doing the buildings, but I do the underground utilities, the slabs. I prep all the base of these, and I'm seeing 10, 12, 13,000 square feet buildings. And like I said, once again, I've been out there almost 30 years, and my home is 30 feet high. It's a two-story home, and we've been there 25 years, me and my wife.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
further questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
According to the secretary, do we have anyone from the public wishing to speak on this matter?
No public comment in chambers and no hands raised via Zoom.
You have public comment, sir?
Yes.
Wait a second, before you, two things is you have to come up to the podium, state your name, and then make sure that you fill out the documentation and give it to our recording staff when we're done here.
Right after you're done, no, wait until you're done speaking, then just come over here and we'll get you signed up. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Martin J. Reeves, and I'm a neighbor of Nevada's, and he's a real asset to the community, helps everyone out all the time, and just a real blessing to the community. And there is lots of buildings bigger than what he wants to put up in the neighborhood. And I know he's going to abide by the paint colors they want out there and all the other stuff. And he's just a wonderful person. And that's what I'd like to say.
Thank you very much. If you can just go over there and fill out the appropriate documentation, we appreciate that. Any other additional comments, recording secretary?
No further public comment.
Thank you very much. We'll close public comment, bring it back to the board for discussion. Any discussion on this item?
Mr. Chair, it seems like, as Planner Pelham pointed out, it's a very straightforward application and a use that's consistent and already in place out there and has been for a long time, and being put forward by someone who knows the business. So I have zero questions.
Thank you very much. I will entertain a motion then.
I would be happy to make this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley.
I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Board of Adjustment approve administrative permit case number WAD MIN 23-004 for Nevada B Story, Maryland J Story, with the conditions included as Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with Washoe County Development Code Section 110.808.25, which include consistency, improvements, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and no effect on a military installation.
Thank you. Before we take a second, Mr. Stanley, I think you missed a 0 out of the number. So what you're making a motion to is WADMIN 23-0004.
There are 3 zeros ahead of the 4. That's correct.
Thank you very much.
If I
Is
left
there
one
a
out, I
second?
This is Rob, I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is administrative permit case number WAD MIN 23-0005 Gamblers Run Music Festival. And we have Planner Stark, I believe, who will be presenting.
Good afternoon. Katie Stark, Washoe County Planning. The case before you is administrative permit WAD-MIN 23-0005 for Gamblers Run Music Festival. The event is scheduled at Crystal Bay Casino in the Tahoe Planning area on State Route 28. The request is for an administrative permit for an outdoor community event at Crystal Bay Casino. There will be live music, crafts, food, beverage. The proposed dates are July 14th through the 16th, and the outdoor portion of the events will run from noon to 8 p.m. each day. They're anticipating 800 people in attendance each day, which qualifies the event as an outdoor community event, and that is allowed with the approval of an administrative permit. Here's the site plan. Shows the location of the stage in orange, craft booths in yellow. I believe the green was food and assorted other items. The music festival will have both indoor and outdoor activities. The only portion that we're reviewing for the administrative permit is the outdoor portion of the event. They will have ticketed entry. The outdoor grounds will open at noon each day for the food, beverage, and crafts. And then live music will run from 2 to 8 p.m. Following the live music, the plan is to clear the guests, and they will be holding parties indoors after the live music outdoors to help encourage folks to move inside. Food and drink will be provided by Crystal Bay Casino with the addition of a couple of food trucks. Washoe County Health District has reviewed the application and provided conditions of approval, which are included in Exhibit A. Those are to ensure that the food and water is handled appropriately, and that, if necessary, temporary food permits are submitted. Water is provided by Crystal Bay Casino with 5 potable water stations throughout the grounds. The Health District has also provided a condition to address water usage. The applicant provided an extensive list of security measures and preparations. Those are included in their application, which is part of the staff report, but I will touch on a few of the highlights. They are going to have 2 dispatch centers on site to allow administrators and staff to communicate with one another, a whole array of items to do so: radios, cell phones, internet, PA. Washoe County Sheriff's Office and North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District will have designated parking spaces next to the Security Dispatch Center. All the emergency response agencies will be included in that 2-way radio system. Again, they will have phones, radios, batteries, power, lights, computers, maps, all available in the Security Dispatch Center. The Sheriff's Office has reviewed the application and they approved the event. For medical coverage, North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District will be the emergency medical service provider. They have reviewed the application and provided a condition which is included in Exhibit A. There will be a first aid tent at the venue with multiple individuals trained in CPR and AED. Staff located throughout the festival will have access to the radio to communicate any medical situations that arise. The Health District EMS coordinator also reviewed the application. There aren't enough folks planned to be in attendance for EMS to be in attendance, but they had no questions or concerns. A couple of additional security issues. They will be patrolling the area for any fire situations with North Lake Tahoe Fire on call if required, and fire extinguishers in all appropriate locations, signage throughout the event to notify emergency exits, the medical booth, vendor locations, restrooms. There were also a handful of plans also included in their application for emergency evacuation or extreme weather events. For sanitation, Quick Space is providing portable restrooms and hand washing facilities, and they will service those daily. The Health District has required restrooms to be at least 50 feet from food vendors. That's included in Exhibit A. Restrooms inside of Crystal Bay Casino are also available. The casino staff and additional housekeeping staff will clean the grounds each night. Waste management is already contracted with Crystal Bay Casino, and they will schedule an additional pickup at the conclusion of the event. For parking and traffic considerations, this application was reviewed by engineering. The Crystal Bay Casino parking garage has 300 parking spaces available. They also have additional parking 1 block from the event. Engineering provided a series of conditions which the applicant has actually already met and provided to engineering. There were a handful of policies in the Tahoe Area Plan, some specific to the Crystal Bay Tourist Regulatory Zone that apply. The first 2, Policy LU2-7 and Policy LU7-2, both in general apply to special events and entertainment. Both of those are supported or upheld by this event. And then Policy R32 requires that temporary events with a discretionary permit receive appropriate consideration of parking, access, and safety issues. The applicant has more than adequately provided information for all those items, and in addition, the Health District, Engineering, and Fire all reviewed and provided any additional conditions. Multiple agencies reviewed the application. Conditions that they provided are included in Exhibit A. Notices were sent to 42 separate property owners within 500 feet of the property. Staff is able to make the 5 required findings, and staff is recommending approval. There's a motion for your consideration. I am available for questions. I believe the applicant was going to be present but not have a presentation.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for staff?
Yes, Kathy Julian for the record. Were there any responses from the community members?
I did not receive a response, no.
Thank you. Mr. Christensen?
Is this the first year, is this the inaugural event for this big one?
I believe so. These come through business license first and then over to us. When I looked through the business license portion of the application, it looks like they had held many indoor events. We're familiar with that, but I believe this is the first outdoor.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Any further questions for staff? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And is the applicant present and wish to add anything further?
For the record, I'm Eric Rowe, General Manager at Crystal Bay Casino. I've been at Crystal Bay since 2008. This is not new to us. Entertainment is kind of our bread and butter. With the assistance of my production manager, Sam Shear, we've done well over 600 shows in my time there. This is our inaugural event outdoors. We have done some smaller events outside, but nothing to this caliber. We anticipate, as we mentioned, about 800 people daily for 2,400 people. We feel this is going to be a great addition to our community. Anticipate about 1,400 room nights. This is going to be mutually beneficial for us and the rest of the community. Typically, we have about 36% of our ticket sales to non-residents, people outside of 50 miles. So, we do plan on having this as an annual event, something that we hope to grow and just be beneficial to both us and the community as a whole.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? I have one. Actually, I have maybe two. I noticed when it talks about parking, you have 300 spaces there at the casino proper. Is that right?
Correct.
But those 300 spaces are not reserved for this event. They're reserved for any customer that comes on site, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So my next question is you do have overflow parking, which is a block of way. Is that sufficient since we're estimating 800 people a day?
So typically in those, I'll refer back to the multiple shows that we have done as a team. We do around 60 a year. Obviously, we didn't do quite as many in 20 and 21. And we have a capacity of 750 for those shows. Our parking has always been sufficient. We've never run out of parking. That's not to say, there's no guarantees that it wouldn't happen this go-around. But with the additional, anticipated additional 50 attendees, I would not anticipate that being an issue. The overflow parking is about 25 spots is all. As Planner Stark had mentioned, I have returned our parking plan and the additional conditions that the engineering department had put forth for our parking plan, and it seemed to meet his standards.
And my second question is the overflow parking that you have, it's about a block away. Are the people that are going to come to the show, are they going to have to cross any major road to get to that event?
If you look at that site plan back where our security station is, and actually right next to North Tahoe Fire Station 15, it's right back there. So they'll just be having to cross Kelleneva Drive, which is a residential road. We do plan on having part of the conditions that engineering asked was for parking attendants. While we're not required to have one back in that area, we do have one stationed there in our plan, just to be friendly to our neighbors, so people aren't walking through their area and not parking in their area as well.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Julian?
Yes, Kathy Julian for the record. In the worst case or best case, you have more people. Where could people park outside of that area, or what public transport could be taken? I know there's Tarp Connect.
We have a very good relationship with Tart Connect. We have also reached out to EKN, the developer of the Biltmore property, and we will be utilizing some of their parking spaces for the tour buses and whatnot, so that we don't jam up any of our existing parking for staff and talent. So that is definitely an avenue I could approach and will approach with Abby at EKN prior to the event, if in the event we do run out of parking, if we could utilize that.
That brings up my second query is EKN is, I believe, hopes to have construction started, grading something started at the property. I'm not sure what.
And we hope to.
Do you anticipate this will create some challenges?
I don't. Looking at their plan, while the community might not agree on the traffic scenarios during their grading and demolition, I do not see that being much of an issue. We have a very good relationship with Abby and Mike Dunn, the development team over there. I believe wholeheartedly they're going to do everything they can to minimize the impacts of traffic, and I do not see how it would affect ours. We also have a meeting with the McWinney Group, who just recently bought the Calneva, scheduled for next Wednesday, and there is thought in speaking to them as well, because that parking would be ideal, because then they wouldn't have to cross a major highway.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Recording secretary, is there any public that wish to speak on this matter?
I have no public comment in chambers, but I do have a hand raised via Zoom.
Thank you.
Andy, if you could please unmute and state your first and last name for the record.
Thank you, Chair Thomas and the board. Andy Chapman, President and CEO of Travel North Tahoe, Nevada, the official destination management organization for the Washoe Tahoe region. I'm here in support of the Gamblers Run Music Festival and the Crystal Bay Club's permit application. This event is a great addition to the region's summer event schedule, and amongst many benefits, helps drive extended length of stay, which is a core strategy of our organization. This event is located in the Crystal Bay Tourist Regulatory Zone and expands on the Crystal Bay Club's core business function and further solidifies Crystal Bay Club as the premier music vendor in the region. I would like to address the parking question, and I know Mr. Rowe brought up Tart Connect. Tart Connect is a community, locally funded Tart Connect service on demand. That service will be running from 8 a.m. to midnight in Zone 3, which is the Crystal Bay Incline Zone. And that also connects into the Zone 4, which is the Kings Beach Zone, which many of the patrons of the Crystal Bay Club do use. Travel North Tahoe, Nevada supports General Manager Eric Rowe and the Crystal Bay Club's team and encourage the Board of Adjustment to approve. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Recording
very-
secretary, is there any addition?
No further public comment.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to the board for discussion. Is there any discussion?
Looks like this Kathy Julian for the record, it looks like a straightforward project, and I have no problem with it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Stanley?
This is more of a statement than a question, but I was expecting our chairman to add the numbers and discuss both security and parking to meet his standards, high standards, and you did. So that was my only concern, and it was well addressed.
Thank you. I'd like to just say something here real quick. I think it's a good project. I think it has a future. But saying that, what my concern is the parking. With 300 spots for the whole casino and then only 25 for the overflow, There is a potential that it could be a problem, but we don't know that until the event happens. And if this is going to be an annual event, we'll know next year whether that could handle it or not, or what steps need to be taken to address the future. So under that is I'm in favor of it, but like I said, I will see next year what may transpire if we need to make necessary adjustments. The only other thing I'd like to say, and I don't want to speak out of school here, but it's a sad commentary that we have a music festival that's going to service the community, and we have to spend a large amount of documentation as to the security features that are going to go into such a nice event. And I guess that's just today's society. It's just too bad that we've managed to get there at this time. But I do appreciate the dedication to detail. Hopefully it will not be needed and it'll be a non-issue, but we do appreciate you at least anticipating it and preparing for it should something like that happen. So thank you very much for putting that together. With that, any further discussion? I will entertain a motion.
Kathy Julian for the record. I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Board of Adjustment approve administrative permit case number WAD-MIN 23-0005 for Crystal Bay Casino, with the conditions included as Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with Washoe County Development Code Section 110.808.25, consistency, improvements, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and effect on a military installation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, special use permit case number WSUP 23-0009 for 449 Lakeshore Boulevard. And we have Mr. Bronstick, Senior Planner, to address this.
Good afternoon. Chris Bronzick, Washoe County Planning. We're looking at WSUP 23-0009. This is for 449 Lakeshore. This is located off of State Route 28. This is primarily for a grading for a driveway to a single-family residence and garage. I wanted to start this presentation off with NDOT requirements, since State Route 28 is an NDOT ran right-of-way. So with the use of legally permitted accesses on its state roadway, all of these will have to be will have to adhere to NDOT's access management system and standards, as well as the terms and conditions related to occupancy permits at the time of their application. Additionally, it should be noted that NDOT standards generally allow for direct access to the state routes when there are no other means of alternative access. In the case of this subject property, due to the existing topography, there is no alternative access. Additionally, it should be noted that this application was routed to NDOT. NDOT did not provide any conditions specific to this application. However, I did receive the NDOT permits yesterday afternoon. I did ask that those documents be sent to the board, and I hope that you all have received those. So with this request, there's multiple things that are taking place as part of it. At the end of the day, it's still just a driveway, but it's a driveway that traverses 30% or greater slopes. It is to construct a permanent earthen structure greater than 4.5 feet within the front yard setback, grading of over 1/2 acre on parcels less than 6 acres in size. This is specific for parcels that have 15% or greater slopes. And additionally, same thing, excavation of 1,000 cubic yards or more on slopes of 15% or greater. So there's 4 triggers, 4 thresholds that are being triggered as part of this request. The volume is roughly 0.65 acres. It's 28,380 square feet. The request is to excavate 1,398 cubic yards of cut and 766 cubic yards of fill. As part of the request, there are standards that are being asked to be varied. The first is to allow for slopes greater than 3:1, to allow for finished grading to vary from natural elevation by more than 10 feet, and to allow retaining walls taller than 4.5 feet within the front yard setback. This project is a little bit unique in comparison to many projects that we see for driveways traversing 30% slopes. This is a little bit difficult to see due to the scale and the busyness, but the property line is here, and everything from the property line to State Route 28 is regulated by NDOT. So we would have no jurisdiction or control over what takes place within that roughly 20-foot area. So our concern is everything that's happening within the actual property lines. Some background. So this exact project was heard by this Board of Adjustment in February of 2021. It was under WSUP 20-0022 with the same name. This submitted SUP has no major changes project-wise from the original submittal in 2020. That special use permit did expire, and as a result, the applicant didn't submit any sort of extension of times or amendment of conditions to extend it. They missed that window. As a result, they did resubmit this SUP to be heard before you again. As of right now, the site is currently undeveloped with trees and native vegetation. This site is located adjacent to another site that had a similar request in 2020 that is currently undergoing development of their own driveway. This site is constrained with extremely steep slopes. It is a lakefront property, and with the approval of the proposed special use permit, the site will eventually be developed with that garage and large single-family residence. Because this is a residential property, no neighborhood meeting was required for this request. However, 69 parcels were noticed within 1,500 feet of the subject property. So I want to talk about one of the conditions. So condition 3C currently states that the North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District highly encourages a heated driveway. In reaching out to the fire marshal, getting clarification, it was determined that the language was meant to say required. As a result, I'm requesting to amend condition 3C to state that North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District will require a heated driveway. Staff is recommending approval with conditions, and I do have a possible motion which highlights the amended conditions above. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff?
Yeah, one.
Mr. Stanley, go ahead.
Planner Bronczyk, do you know or have the background on why the first application missed its deadline and missed the refiling deadline? Were there extenuating circumstances that you're aware of?
I don't have the full background. I know in 2021 they did submit for grading permits to start this process relatively quickly, but I don't know where the disconnect is. The applicant representative is present.
Okay, is there just 1 second? Is there any more questions for staff?
Yes, I have a question.
Ms.
for
Julian,
staff.
sorry about that. We'll-
I also had an extensive conversation with Chris yesterday, and on this matter, and I raised the issue of the construction on Saturday allowed under this, and so I was wondering, and just to clarify with you, the NDOT does not allow for construction on Saturday, correct?
Based off of the permit that I read and sent to you, there were 3 conditions that talked about hours of operation with NDOT. One of the conditions that I read showed that there would be no work allowed on Saturdays. It is up to the board if they want to also provide a condition such as no work on Saturdays. I did reach out to the applicant related to that. The applicant was open to adhering to that standard of no work on Saturdays.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any more questions for staff?
Yeah, this is Rob for the record. So if they don't, if you don't want them to work on Saturday, then I would assume you don't want them to work on Sunday either?
Sundays aren't allowed to be worked on within county
all.
code already.
Okay, okay.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, thank you. And is the applicant or the applicant's representative present and wish to address this matter?
Good afternoon. Again, for the record, Mike Ray of the Christie Corporation. To address Commissioner Stanley's question, the applicant submitted their grading plans and we're in process, and then there were some changes architecturally made to the house that was being constructed, which resulted in a delay. It was the applicant's understanding that since he had filed for the grading permits, that kept the special use permit alive. However, the changes in the architectural plans and the new design of the house, which was fairly minor, it was to accommodate some ADA things for a family member, didn't realize that the use permit had expired. So that's the reason why we're back. But this is the exact same permit that was approved previously unanimously by this board. As Chris mentioned, we did not have a neighborhood meeting. However, the last time through, this went to the Incline Village Crystal Bay CAB and was approved unanimously by that board as well. So I just want to clarify. I did have a presentation. It's very repetitive to what Chris did. There are some pictures in there. If you would actually like to see pictures of the site, we can pull those up. But I have nothing further to add to what Chris already did. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions for the applicant? Mr. Christensen.
Mike, thanks again. I'm kind of fascinated by this change in the fire department's requirement for a heated driveway. How is that accomplished? Is it electric or solar or what?
It's electric. There's coils that are actually put into the pavement. That was something that was planned anyway, so we have no objection to that. Obviously, in the winter times, it makes it easier for plowing and access in and out. Also, to address the hours of operation or the days, we are in full agreement with no construction on Saturdays. In fact, the NDOT permit is approved, but our engineers are actually working with NDOT right now because NDOT's going to be doing some reconstruction on State Route 28. So we're going to try to coordinate that we're doing our construction at the same time they are, so there's no additional traffic delays over the summer.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you. We'll go ahead ask the recording secretary if any of the public wish to speak on this matter.
No public comment in chambers. I do have a hand raised via Zoom. Joe Floyd, if you could please unmute and state your first and last name for the record.
Hello, board. My name is Joe Floyd. I am the owner of 453 Lakeshore, which is just 2 lots over from the proposed site. I just had a question around the disruption it's going to cause to traffic over the summer. So I am aware that NDOT is planning some road work, and every time that happens, I get 30 to 60 minute backups every time I have to leave and enter my house. And I just wanted to find out how long this project was going to be going on and what their plan was in terms of using the roadway and blocking one lane of traffic or both lanes of traffic. Just wanted to understand it better.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you. Right now, this isn't open for debate or discussion, and all we're doing is taking input from you. I would probably direct you toward NDOT to see if you can get clarification on that question, or if they can address that. Anyway, is there any additional public comment? Seeing none, thank you. We'll go ahead and close public comment, and we'll bring it back to the board for discussion. Ms. Julian.
May I follow up on that query and ask the applicant's representative to address that issue? Because that was, when I called Chris, that was my major concern about the possible disruption. I have the data from NDOT on that stretch of highway at Pinion and 28. They measure it. On any given July, Saturday weekend, it's 20,000 cars coming through there, 10,000 going north, 10,000 going south. So that is a major issue, and that is why I am very pleased that you will not be doing construction on weekdays. So that would be great if you could address that.
Sure. Again, for the record, Mike Raley. As I mentioned, we anticipate that the work that we need to do is going to take probably somewhere between 10 to 15 days to complete. However, like I say, if we coordinate that with NDOT, the goal is that we would be doing that work simultaneously while they had the road closed during their road closures, and we'll coordinate our traffic control plan so that there wouldn't be any additional closure of the road above and beyond what NDOT already has planned for the summer.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that helps Mr. Floyd in his getting his question answered too. Are there any, bringing it back to the board, further discussion?
Kathy Julian for the record. I'd like to also thank the applicant and staff for the heated driveway requirement. That was the other issue I raised, because my concern is in the winter, when you are plowing that driveway, that you have minimal plowing of that driveway, because any plowing of that driveway will impact on 28 and the considerable traffic between Crystal Bay and Incline Village. And from a community perspective, that is critically important. So thank you.
Thank you. On that same subject of the heated driveway, just a point of clarification, the board is probably already aware of this, but if you look within the packet itself, it does not indicate that the heated driveway is required. That was a subsequent document that was delivered to us. Basically, I know I got mine via email that changed that to make the not to recommend, but to have a heated driveway as part of the conditions. Is that correct, Mr. Bronczyk?
That is correct. So if a motion is made, you'd make the motion for amended 3C.
Thank you. Ms. Julian.
Yes, and I would support this with a motion to require an addition of the condition of both the heated driveway and, I suppose, no work on Saturday.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? Mr. Stanley?
I have a question for Chris. Was that the requirement or the condition for the heated driveway, was that in the 21, 22, 23, 24? And if it was included there, which was it, so we don't have to do the verbiage?
It was not included within the NDOT permit. So I reached out for clarification to the fire marshal about that condition. It is condition 3C under North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District.
3C, okay. And that was in the package that we received kind of last night-ish?
The condition was wrongly worded in the original packet you received,
right.
But the document and the amended request was submitted yesterday afternoon to you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, board members? If not, I will entertain a motion.
This is Rob. I'll make a motion. I move that after giving reasoned consideration, information containing staff report, and information received during the public hearing, the Washington County Board of Adjustments approve with conditions special use case permit WSUP 230009 for the Myers Family Trust with the conditions included in Exhibit A to this matter, and amend 3C to require a heated driveway. What's that?
Saturday.
Yeah, and no work on Saturday or Sunday. With the conditions, having made all 5 findings in accordance with Washington County Code Section 110.810.30 is listed below, and approve the applicant's request to vary development code standards set forth in WCC 110.438.45A, WCC 110.438.45D, and WCC 110.438.45C as set forth in the staff report. Consistency, improvement, site suitability issue is not detrimental and no effects on a military.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Julian. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is special use permit case number WSUP 22-0033 Mason Family Trust. And we have Senior Planner Waikiki presenting.
Good afternoon. Courtney Waikiki, Senior Planner, Washoe County. The item before you is WSUP 22-003 Mason Dadar. The request is for a special use permit to approve a roughly 584 square foot detached accessory dwelling unit at 7295 Lingfield Drive, located in the southeast Truckee Meadows area plan. There is an existing 2,400 square foot primary residence located on the parcel. The parcel has a regulatory zone of medium density suburban, which requires a special use permit for a detached accessory dwelling. The setbacks for MDS are 20 feet in the front and rear and 8 feet on the sides. The accessory dwelling, as proposed, will meet all required setbacks. The existing residence has a 4-car garage. The required parking for a single-family dwelling is 2 spaces, one of which must be located in an enclosed garage. A detached accessory dwelling requires 1 additional parking space. A total of 3 parking spaces are required for the combined uses, which is 1 less than the existing parking and therefore meets this requirement. Here's an image of the floor plan. The proposed detached accessory dwelling includes 1 studio bedroom, a bathroom, kitchen, and living room. Here are the proposed elevations. The proposed detached accessory dwelling is 1 story with an open ceiling floor plan. The parcel is subject to the Hidden Valley Community Area modifiers, requiring the structures be limited to 1 story and shall not exceed 25 feet in height. The staff report did incorrectly reference a previous version of the request, citing a loft bedroom in one of the locations of the staff report. As proposed, there is no loft, and it is only a 1-bedroom studio dwelling unit with that open ceiling floor plan. The applicant has requested a minor modification to the roof plan, reducing the overall mass of the structure to reduce construction costs. There would be no change to the floor plan or height as a result of the reduced roof line and does not impact staff's analysis of the request for the accessory dwelling. And you can see here on the highlighted sections or circles in red where the roof line is actually being decreased, and so the mass of the structure will actually be smaller than their original request. The proposed height of 21 feet falls within the maximum 25 feet height allowed. Adjacent residences are of similar height, ranging between 20 and 24 feet, and would be architecturally compatible with the primary residence. 51 properties were noticed within 500 feet of the parcel. No comments in opposition were received. All applicable agencies reviewed the request and provided no opposition. Recommended conditions of approval have been incorporated appropriately. Staff does believe all required findings can be made, and I have provided a possible motion for your consideration. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, thank you very much. Does the applicant present wish to speak on this matter?
Good afternoon, Susan Pansky for the record, representing the Mason family. I don't have anything to add. I just want to thank Courtney for her thorough presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions if you have them.
Thank you. Is there any questions for the applicant representative? Seeing none, thank you. Appreciate that. Bring it back to the recording secretary. Is there any public comment on this?
I believe there is public comment in chambers, sir. If you could come up to the podium and state your first and last name and fill out a public comment card after.
Good afternoon. My name is Lee Wilson. I live at 7285 Lingfield Drive, right next to the Masons. I move you approve it right away without any stipulations whatsoever. They've been great neighbors. They're giving their young son the opportunity to live on his own instead of having to live in his house. And he's every time to move out and have a little peace and quiet. So as a neighbor, I say build it. Thank you.
Thank you.
There is no further public comments.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and close public comment. Bring it back to the board for discussion. Any discussion on this item?
It's Rob for the record. It sounds like a pretty straightforward project. I'm in favor of it.
Kathy Julian for the record. I also support the project with just one minor adjustment to the conditions, and it's the usual, any construction machinery activity or noise should begin from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So no mobilization before the 7 a.m. time.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, and I do apologize we didn't
Mr.
catch
Lloyd.
that one, but we've made that the standard condition with all projects moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stanley?
Mr. Chair, I agree that it's a very clean project. I really as always, appreciate neighbors coming in and putting in a good word. That saves us a lot of trouble on two of our findings and makes it a lot easier typically. So thank you for that. Also, I appreciate the planner and the applicant paying attention to the Hidden Valley modifiers. Well done there. And looks like a nice, straightforward, clean project for a good cause.
Mr. Stanley, I concur. Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Well, I'll make a motion. I'll go ahead and make the motion this time. I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Board of Adjustment approve with conditions special use permit case number WSUP 22-0033 for the Mason Family Trust, with the conditions included in Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with the Washoe County Code Section 110.810.30, that being consistency, improvement, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and effects on a military installation.
This is Rob. I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is special use permit case number WSUP 23-0010, Amos Residence, and we have Senior Planner Waikiki presenting.
Thank you again, Courtney Waikiki, Senior Planner, Washoe County. The item before you is WSUP 23-0010 for Amos Residence. There we go. So the request is for a special use permit for major grading. Oh, looks like I had major grading there twice. Apologize. For major grading of 2,630 cubic yards of cut material and 2,350 cubic yards of film material on slopes of 15% or greater, disturbing a total of 1.97 acres to provide for driveway access and a building pad for a single-family dwelling. The applicant is also seeking to vary section 110.438.45C of Washoe County Code, which is that finished grading shall not vary from the natural slope by more than 10 feet in elevation. Here's an aerial image. The project site consists of 5.64 acres located south of Andrew Lane in the Valley High Estates subdivision. Primary site access is taken from Andrew Lane north of the property. The subject property has a regulatory zone of low-density suburban, of 18% low-density suburban, and 82% general rural, and is located in the South Valley's area plan. The project site is vacant and covered in native vegetation. As shown in the aerial image, some disturbance has occurred on the site. The Big Ditch, as it's locally known, has an access road along it. The grading associated for the road was completed some time ago. Additionally, there was a mudslide several years ago which brought material from the slide down to the existing residence on the adjacent parcel. In order to redirect water around the house after the mudslide, drainage diversion ditches were constructed. Adjacent parcels are of comparable size and developed with single-family homes or are vacant. The site contains considerable topography, including slopes steeper than 30%. The design and location of the proposed single-family dwelling minimizes the use and disturbance of the steepest southern slopes to the greatest extent possible, while still achieving the most desirable and suitable location for the dwelling. Here is the proposed site plan. The request for major grading, as stated, is needed for support construction for a new single-family residence, including necessary retaining walls for the location of the leach or septic field and the detention basin located there in the front. The site contains considerable topography, including slopes steeper than 30%. The design and location of the proposed single-family dwelling minimizes the use of the steeper slopes, as I've shown earlier. Let's go to the next slide. Apologize. Construction of the single-family dwelling pad and associated driveway exceeds the major grading thresholds for traversing slopes greater than 30% and fills in excess of 1,000 cubic yards for both cut and fill on slopes greater than 15%. As you can see in the street view image from Andrew Lane, the parcel substantially increases in elevation or slopes as you move south to the rear property line. The area shown in blue above represents slopes between 20 and 30%, and the purple indicates slopes in excess of 30%. As part of the special use permit request, the applicant is also seeking to modify grading standard Article 438.45C, and that's that finished grading shall not vary from the natural slope by more than 10 feet in elevation. Staff does support varying the standard as requested due to existing site conditions and slope analysis. The parcel slope substantially increases south of Andrew Lane to the rear property line. There are sections of the building pad and associated infrastructure that require cuts in excess of 10 feet. The maximum depth of cut is 13 feet and the maximum fill is 15 feet. The area of maximum cut is at the back of the septic field, located directly behind the proposed dwelling, and will therefore largely be screened from public view sheds. The area of maximum fill is in association with the existing Big Ditch irrigation channel that will be piped and filled in. Exhibit C to the packet indicates approval from the Big Ditch Company for the needed improvements to the irrigation channel. Here are the grading cut sheet profiles. As you can see here, slightly difficult to see at this scale, that most of the grading will be taking place at the front of the parcel where the slopes are the least steep. Full cut sheets were included as Exhibit C project application. All applicable policies of the area plan are complied with. One condition of approval was added to require the applicant to submit a noxious weed plan with their building permit. 55 properties within 1,000 feet were notified of the proposed application. No comments in opposition were received. However, I did receive one phone call asking for clarification on the request, and there was just some confusion about it being a subdivision versus single-family dwelling, and they were satisfied. All applicable agencies did review the request and provided no opposition. Recommended conditions of approval have been incorporated appropriately. Staff does believe all required findings, including specific South Valley's area plan findings, can be made and have provided a possible motion for your consideration. You can hear the South Valley area plan findings and staff comment. With that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Is there any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair, I have one.
Yes, Mr. Stanley.
Planner Wyke, on page 5 of 13, and I think it's somewhere else as well. Am I looking at this right, that there seems to be, the property line seems to go across some of the improvements on the adjoining property? And if so, does that have any implication for this application?
There is no proposed improvements on any other parcel than the parcel that the property owner owns. If you're looking at page 5, which is the aerial image.
5 of 13, yeah.
Yeah, what that is actually the way the parcel is, that is the parcel line. So and maybe the applicant can provide some background on why it's kind of cuts over like that, but it does kind of go to the, I guess, the east there and cut over.
Okay, and just to make it clear, I wasn't talking about the little point there running along the roadway. I was talking about what appears to be, the property line seems to go through, at least photographically, to what appears to be some improvements on the adjoining property. And even if that's the case, for an example, does that impact the application?
I have the applicant in my indicating that they will be able to address it. I apologize. I'm trying to zoom in. I think I was on the wrong image. So maybe we can hold off and have them
Just, I'm a
address
sight
that.
dog, so I just, something I noticed. So we'll wait to hear from the applicant, is
Right.
that correct? Oh, okay.
Any additional questions?
Yeah, one more.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Stanley.
The big ditch, is that strictly irrigation, or does it also serve a water runoff or a, that sort of purpose as well? It looks like it would be sited to catch some runoff from the hill and pass it along.
I'm assuming the same, but again, I may defer to the applicant as I don't know exactly the purpose of the big ditch, other than, yes, I would assume that it's for irrigation and retention purposes.
Okay, maybe a follow-on, if you don't mind, to that. Did I hear you say that was, or did I understand that is now going to be piped and filled over?
Correct.
Okay.
And the applicant does have a presentation and likely will go into a bit more detail. And we did receive a letter of approval from the Big Ditch Company.
Okay. All right, thank you. The size of the pipe, just out of my own curiosity, is what?
And that was, and maybe we'll defer to the applicant, but it is, I do have that in here, and maybe they can just address all the concerns related to the Big Ditch.
Thank you.
And I'll look as they are, if there's any outstanding questions once they present.
Thank you, Ms. Wyke. I do have a question for you. The last item on Exhibit D is from the Big Ditch Company. And the last paragraph in part says, it's probably the last sentence, it says the Big Ditch Company will require you to maintain all culverts, including this new 48-inch one, on your property to ensure that no debris will decrease, block, or impede the flow of water through the big ditch. With that, if you go to page 3 of 4 under your Exhibit A, which is conditions, does that need to be clarified, or is that covered under number D on page 3 of 4, which would be Washoe County Engineering, no, I'm sorry, Drainage County Code? I know this is kind of, sorry I didn't state that too clearly. But anyway, the Big Ditch says they're responsible for maintaining it, and I don't see anything from the Big Ditch specific within your conditions.
Correct. And because it is more of a private matter, I'm not sure that it would be appropriate for the county to reflect that as conditions of approval, because it would be the county that would be responsible for requiring it. However, it is on record from both the Big Ditch Company and in that they will be requiring that condition.
Thank you. Mr. Lloyd, you want to add anything to that, sir?
I think Courtney was dead on with her response. The Big Ditch is not a reviewing agency in that regard. They're a private company. And it would become more of a civil matter between two parties to adhere to this requirement.
Thank you. I appreciate that point of clarification. Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, thank you very much. Does the applicant present wish to speak on this matter?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Mike Bix. I'm with Monte Vista Consulting, representing Scott Amos, the applicant, who is also available for questions as we go through our presentation. I'd like to thank Courtney. That was a very thorough presentation. She hit most of the items I was going to hit as well. There were a few that I'll go into a little bit more depth on, and we'll kind of breeze over some of the more repetitive information. And so again, the zoning allows for the proposed use, essentially. With the proposed work, we will be piping the irrigation channel. We've worked with the Big Ditch Company on the sizing of that already and obtained their approval, which we did include in the application. It'll be sized similarly to the both up and downstream culverts, and as condition C of the Drainage County Code requires, we're going to have to demonstrate that that has no adverse effects on the surrounding properties. The proposed improvements actually should improve drainage in an area where there have been some issues in the past. So I don't know if if you look over the green area in the lower section of the plan, that area currently does experience some flooding in moderate storm events. I'm not exactly sure what all of the contributing factors are. Some of that may be the ditch overflowing up above. However, that is an area that has been known to have flooding. In order to improve the drainage conditions there, as part of this work, we're going to actually be proposing a deeper detention area, which will allow for additional capacity prior to the storm flows overtopping Andrew Lane, which is typically how the flooding proceeds. It goes across Andrew Lane into actually the contractor's driveway and down into his garage. So he's also vested in improving the drainage situation. The pond then will overflow back into the Big Ditch if it does, experience some flows. So as part of the proposed development, we're proposing that we will actually improve the drainage conditions beyond what we are adding to the area. We've already done a drainage report and oversized it accordingly. I would like to point out that the septic system up above the house is not desirable. We looked at every option possible to avoid going up the hill. With the Big Ditch there, Washoe County Delta District has specific distances that we need to maintain from irrigation ditches, and that pushed us up the hill. We also have distances we need to maintain from the well as well as the adjacent well, which is right in this area here. So, sorry, the neighbor's well is here, our proposed well is over here. And so the septic system has to be 100 feet away. By the time we had all of those, added all the setbacks, we got pushed up the hill. With that, that's what's driving the retaining wall up above. So In response to your question, Mr. Stanley, about the development on the adjacent property, Scott used to own the adjacent property. So he has sold it since and has an agreement with the neighbor to actually, once this, separate from this permit, to modify the property line to kind of reconcile those offsite improvements that are there now. Our design has been done we have an assumed future property line, and everything that we're doing is staying away from the future property line. So none of that existing infrastructure will be impacted with the proposed work. However, we have a plan of attack to reconcile that, like I said previously. As we look at the grading under consideration, the cut and the fill, again, we'd just like to point out that the area of purple at the front is the area where we're exceeding fills over 10 feet. We're not preserving a natural existing terrain there. That's the bottom of the big ditch. So that is getting filled in and piped. So technically we're bringing it up more than 10 feet, but that's, it is limited to the ditch. And then again, as Courtney indicated, at the back of the septic field, we have one area that is 2.5 feet beyond the threshold. And I've spent the last 2 years working on this project through many iterations. We've done everything we can to balance it, and this is what we have been whittled ourselves into at this point. So we do have a landscaping and revegetation plan in order to address long-term site stabilization, as well as some screening, and I'm sure as as time goes on, Scott will add additional landscaping. We have some architectural elevations of the house. And then we'd just like to thank you for your consideration. We have reviewed the conditions of approval and are open to redefining, if it's not already defined, the 7 a.m. mobilization time. And we just thank you very much for your consideration. Again, I'm available for any further questions you may have. Scott is also available, and thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for this gentleman? Mr. Stanley?
Yeah, thanks for explaining the boundary or the BLA. What's your anticipated timing for that?
Do you have?
There is no. You'll have to come up to the podium, please.
Hello, for the record, Scott Amos, property owner. To answer your question, the neighbors there is no anticipated timeline. As part of the sale agreement, when I sold it to them, I drew the utility easement, and I drew this boundary line adjustment on there, and we both signed that we would do it at a future date. But there is no time frame on it. But it is a signed agreement that we will do the BLA at a future date.
Thank you. And as long as you mentioned signed agreements, there's the agreement with the big ditch, and that doesn't represent a problem to you?
No, it doesn't. They've been very good to work with. I have been on Andrew Lane for over 10 years. So I put in culverts on that existing property, worked with Big Ditch on those ones, and now we're considering piping the whole ditch. So appreciate it. Thank you. Anything else?
Thank you. Any additional questions for this gentleman? See none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and close that. We'll open it up for public comment. Recording secretary, do we have any public comment at this time?
There is no public comment in chambers and no hands raised via Zoom.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and close public comment. Bring it back to the board for discussion. Any discussion on this item? Mr. Stanley?
It seems like they've creatively solved some of the challenges that they had before them, and it looks like a very clean and worthwhile project. It benefits the neighbors through the better ditch as well.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Just Rob, for the record, looks like a pretty straightforward project, and I'm in support of it.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Any other comments? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Rob, I'll make a motion. I move that after given reasoned consideration and information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, Washington County Board of Adjustments approve with conditions special use permit case number WSUP 23-0010 for Amos Living Trust with the conditions included in Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with the Washington County Code Section 110.810.30. Consistency, improvements, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and no effects on a military installation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next up on the agenda is chair and board items. These are non-action items. Is there any future agenda items the board would like to be added?
I think Trevor has something.
Mr. Chair, I have not forgotten about the request to have a discussion on neighborhood meetings and the process and how we address agency comments, and would like to bring that back next month, assuming that it's not going to be a significantly long agenda, but that would likely be coming next month.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. Mr. Stanley?
You know, this is a question more than a suggestion, I think. Kind of a veiled suggestion, I guess, really. But is there anything that this board can do that could be used or would aid the implementation of an enhanced CAB system? An enhanced Citizens Advisory Board system like we had in the past. I say that because, you know, in my time here, we rely so heavily and on, particularly for issues, you know, site suitability and non-detrimental, on citizen and community input. And it is so, I want to say it's so difficult for them to do that, actually. I mean, there are so many hoops you have to jump through to actually have your voice heard. And in the old CAB days, that was less a problem. So I don't know if there's any way that, in your position, for an example, something like that could be put forward to be reconsidered or to be in support of reconsideration if it does happen.
Mike Large for the record from the DA's office. Ultimately, Mr. Stanley, first of all, this hasn't been noticed, but I'll answer the question really quickly. Ultimately, that's a policy decision for the Board of County Commissioners, and it's in their purview whether or not they want to reinstate the cabs and the development, whether or not they'll have jurisdiction over development agreements, and to what extent. The decision that was made was that they would essentially do away with the development component of the cabs.
Right.
And that was made a couple of years ago.
Couple years, right.
So,
But this question's in the record, is that correct?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That segued nicely right into the request for information from staff. So is there anything else? Any information from
Can
staff?
we get waters for our meetings?
I will bring you waters next time.
Thank you, Mr. Large. We appreciate that. Okay, next is directors and legal counsel items. Report on previous Board of Adjustment items. Mr. Lloyd?
Yeah, I do have one item to report on. At the April 11th County Commission meeting, the County Commission overturned the BOA's approval of the Ormat exploration wells. They did so with the 3-2 vote. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Legal information and updates. Mr. Large? Thank you. Mr. and/or Mrs. Recording Secretaries, do either one of you have anything?
There's no public comment.
Thank you very much. With that, we're adjourned.